Okay, welcome. We are kicking off this deep dive into Michael Celso's really crucial work, The Void in Addiction.
Yes, it's a fascinating read. Really shifts the focus.
Absolutely. So our mission today really is to quickly get our heads around his core concepts. What is this inner void he talks about? And also how much the landscape of addiction itself has, well, expanded. It's huge now.
It really is. And I think the first thing Celso wants us to do is challenge that old, narrow view.
Right, like it's not just booze or opioids anymore.
Exactly. He argues pretty convincingly, I think, that we're dealing with this whole spectrum of behavioral compulsions, often invisible ones.
So let's get into that core idea then, the void. What does he mean by that?
Well, fundamentally, the addiction itself isn't seen as the root problem. That's the key insight.
Okay.
Celso frames addiction more as a, let's call it a maladaptive solution, a harmful coping strategy.
A coping strategy for what?
For this deep inner emptiness, this
Right.
void. It's the brain's desperate attempt, really a badly chosen one, to fill that emptiness.
And where does that emptiness, that void come from?
It can stem from a lot of places. Often, unmet emotional needs from childhood, maybe trauma, societal pressures certainly play a role, or even just the basic human struggle, for meaning, connection, or self-regulation. It's complex.
So, okay, if I'm getting this right, the destructive pattern, the addiction itself, is basically just the symptom.
Precisely.
The person isn't really seeking the drug or the behavior for its own sake. They're searching for something else, like connection or maybe just peace, solace.
That's exactly it. A moment to escape from that internal pain, that void.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets really relevant for you listening, because the tools for that temporary escape are literally everywhere now.
And this is where the scope just explodes, right? Celso goes into detail on these newer non-chemical compulsions.
He does. He talks about, for instance, the immediate but totally fleeting validation you get from a social media like.
That little ping on your phone.
Or the way you can just completely lose yourself, escape into an immersive video game world for hours.
Or the thrill, that desperate high from maybe online gambling, or even just the instant buzz of clicking buy now online again and again.
Yes, that instant gratification aspect, the ubiquity, the ease of access, that's what makes these modern compulsions so, insidious.
They're like these little machines built specifically to numb that underlying pain just for a moment.
Exactly. They provide a very quick, very short-term fix for what is often a chronic internal deficit.
Yeah.
A patch on a deep wound.
Okay, this brings up a really critical question for me then. Does the brain actually know the difference?
That's the fascinating part.
Like, is the internal process, the neurochemistry, the same whether you're using, say, heroin or you're caught in a doom-scrolling loop on social media?
From the brain's perspective,
Yeah.
largely no. It doesn't really differentiate the source of the relief that much.
Wow.
What the science shows, and what Celso highlights, is that both substance addictions and these behavioral addictions, they share the same underlying neurobiological machinery.
So they're tapping into the same circuits.
Exactly. They both essentially hijack the brain's reward circuitry, that pleasure pathway. They push that same quick fix button.
And that leads to the same problems like tolerance, needing more and more.
Yep. Tolerance develops, so you need more of the substance or more intense engagement with the behavior just to get the same effect, which leads inevitably to craving withdrawal when you stop and that profound loss of control.
So the mechanism, the way it takes over your reward system, it's basically identical.
Fundamentally, yes. It's a powerful cycle.
This just completely reframes how we should think about addiction, doesn't it?
It really does.
It confirms it's not some kind of, moral failing or lack of willpower.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's a complex, deeply ingrained neurobiological attempt to cope, to survive unbearable psychic distress, essentially.
And Celso's work really emphasizes that this pain, this distress, it often has roots deep in the past, right? Like trauma.
Precisely. When you dig into that deep, often buried psychic pain, the research frequently points back to what we call adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs.
Right, those really stressful, often traumatic events in childhood that can literally rewire the developing brain.
Exactly. So if you start seeing the addiction not as the primary problem, but as a desperate, albeit destructive, survival mechanism for that underlying pain,
Then the whole approach to recovery has to shift, doesn't it?
it changes everything. The focus shifts from just stopping the behavior to healing the wound that drives it.
Which leaves us with a really provocative final thought, building on Celso's work. If addiction is often this desperate attempt to survive unbearable internal pain, maybe pain rooted in those ACEs, how much does lasting recovery depend not just on battling the behavior, but on truly acknowledging and healing that original underlying wound, that core pain?
That really is the crucial question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where does the real healing need to happen?
Something profound to think about.